Welcome to Keiser Voices, the story of success, brought to you by Keiser University Graduate School, here where the academic world meets personal triumph. Join us today as we dive into the captivating tales of success.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Keiser Voices. We're excited because today we're going to take a deep dive into some of our newer programs, and that is our exercise and sports management. So joining with us, you all should recognize him. He is no stranger to this podcast. Is Dr. Diaz, our Masters of Exercise and Sports Management Program Chair here at the Graduate School. But joining him today is Dr. Justin Harmon. He is the University Department Chair and the Program Director of Sports Management located at our Flagship campus. And one of our newest family members, Dr. Morgan Washington, who is working with Dr. Diaz in this exercise and sports sciences program. But I want to point out something before we really get into our conversation today. All three of them have this extensive background, and not just academics when we start talking about sports management, exercise and sports science, but they've also lived it and worked it in their backgrounds. And for a complete listing of their bios, be sure to check out the comment section. We've included it for you. They're all athletes. They've coached athletes. They've trained athletes. They've run businesses. And now here we are on the academic side, taking a really deep dive into looking at how these two worlds collide. And our conversation today is about running your business like a successful sports team, which Dr. Diaz, it sounds weird, but at the same time, I feel like it makes 100%, sense. Like it just makes sense. So can we start off by talking about what is sports management?
Yes, Heather. So thank you for having us again. It's a pleasure to be here today to get started. So definition of sports management is the practice of organizing, planning, and overseeing the business and operation of different aspects of a sports organization. So why is this so important? Because today you see that pretty much all the organizations, they're getting more professionalized, I would say this way, especially in the sports area that we're going to talk more today. So it's not just like you have some experience and then now you try to run a business, but you getting to know everything about that business to make successful. And then this way you can allow like the athletes, the sport, everybody that involved work in their direction, when you as a sports manager could work on the logistics, finance, community engagement, and give the support for this team to operate. For that purpose, I invited here Dr. Washington and Dr. Harmon to really help in this conversation, and that's where we're going to start it.
And I'm glad you mentioned success, and I do want to come back and talk more about the sports specific business world. But can we first, Dr. Harmon, talk about what's the success when we look at, in the business world?
So it takes various forms. If you have a new startup business, obviously maybe your goal is just to get your product, get your service out there to the world, just to establish yourself. And we see that also in sports, right? When we have new coaches or new GMs, sometimes they want to establish a baseline. They want to set a culture. They want to create something that they can build upon moving into the future. And you see the same thing in the business world. And I love the fact that Dr. Diaz, when he was talking about the definition of sport management, you heard that word business. So with sport management, business is what we do. We do focus on a unique area of business that is the sports world. But at the same time, it's all business at the end of the day.
So then how can we take and make a team successful? And it's not just the sports team, but your department team. Like for you, I know you're the university department chair. There's a whole bunch of different faculty. You work like with individuals like Dr. Diaz, Dr. Washington, and all of it together has to be a team for it to work. So how do we get that team to be successful?
You hit it right on the head, right? A team. So what does a team do, right? They usually have a goal in mind. They are pulling in the same direction. We start talking about culture. We start talking about fit. We start talking about knowing what your responsibility is. What do you contribute to the organization, and maybe focusing on that. Same thing we see in the business world. We have goals. We have directions, things that we ask of our folks to get done so that the organization can have success. Same thing we talk about in sports, right? That, hey, this is what I need you to do so that the organization can move forward. And part of that sometimes is just making sure everybody understands the game plan. They can see the big picture and know how their role fits in with what the organization is trying to do.
And then, Dr. Washington, we have this team, we have this success characteristics that Dr. Harmon just touched on, but how do we adopt that team first culture? How do we bring that? Like, it's one thing to say we're going to be successful, you all have to work together, but there's a whole other aspect, and that's the culture of the work environment.
Yeah, in sport management, we see that great organizations succeed because every department, from athletes to coaches to trainers to sports marketing to the operations staff, they know they're contributing to the same win, and they all know that their role contributes to the greater good of the team. Businesses can mirror that by creating a team-first culture where recognition goes beyond top performers and includes those behind the scenes, just like a championship team celebrates the trainers and analysts along with the athletes. Companies should reward collaboration, highlight unsung contributors, and align everyone around a clear shared mission.
Where's the balance?
Yeah, one second. If I can add, Heather, to this talk, if you see more and more often now, let's say business specialists, leaders in the field, they're going and researching the sports team, how they operate to help other business get successful. So just like Dr. Washington Herman said, so this is very, very important. So that's kind of like what we're trying to do here, in trying to explain and give avenues so you can analyze. And there's, and I'm not going to mention name, but there's several important leaders in the world that they go and they try to research how this team operates. Now they push to other business. So it's a very good way. And then part of that, kind of like Dr. Washington said, you got to respect the different cultures, especially in the sports area. We have, let's say, people with different backgrounds. So this is one thing that you need to respect in any organization.
No, and that's a valid point. Dr. Diaz, you made a very, very good point talking about like the athletes. It's the athletes, it's the coaches, it's the management offices. I know Dr. Harmon talked about logistics in the background. And everybody's kind of running. How do you balance, Dr. Washington, the leaders, your individual talents, like, your players on the field, if you will, to work with that back office accounting or marketing and PR? How do you balance, the team versus the individual?
So when you think of sports teams, usually most of them have at least one superstar, and that star can elevate a team. But if their presence disrupts team chemistry, well, then the performance drops. Similarly, leaders in business face the same challenge. The key is role clarity and culture, giving talented individuals space to excel while reinforcing structures where the contributions still serve the group. So in sport management, we often integrate, sports psychologists, leadership training, and role definition to keep that team cohesion strong. Businesses can adopt similar practices like mentorship systems, team rituals, and making sure that there's clear communication pathways across all departments.
What about the problem child, if you will? There's always those individuals that are resistant to change when you switch up the culture, implement new processes, programs, technology. Changing a location can really, unfortunately put some people in a tailspin. Dr. Harmon, how do you get that buy-in from even your, if you will, problematic team members?
But you need to have that communication, number one, and understanding that when you are building a culture, I hate to say it, but sometimes people don't necessarily fit in. Now, that being said, the really good coaches, the really good GMs, they will find a way to make sure that they are getting buy-in from individuals. And sometimes it's finding out what that person really wants. The same thing we see in the sports world. Sometimes you'll have players who are like, hey, I've been here for a while, I've not been compensated, and I'm unhappy about that. Same thing we see in the business world. Somebody can say, hey, I really contribute to the success of this organization. I feel neglected. And to Dr. Washington's point, you want to make sure those folks are seen, that they are included. Maybe that's really what they're looking for, just acknowledgement that they are contributing to the organization's success. But, we also see sometimes the folks that are they're absolutely positively just don't want to be there anymore. And I hate to say it, but, in the sports world, that person sometimes has to find a different organization. But like I said, I'm a personal believer in that everybody brings value. There's a reason they came to your organization in the first place. So maybe you can find that common ground set that there is greater buy-in.
And then that makes a lot of sense, like how motivating them, from a different angle, and maybe just a simple, like, thank you will do the trick, hopefully in most cases. Or like you said, they just, unfortunately, they don't fit the culture. And you're right, we see that in the sports world all the time. I'm not going to mention any specific players from the Steelers roster a few years ago, but we saw some changes had to be made in that locker room for them to have
Let's
a
talk
good
about
year.
The Cowboys.
Ooh, wow.
I think we might be asking who's your pick for the Super Bowl here when we're done with our questions. But to keep us on track, Dr. Washington, you were a soccer player, that's here in the U.S. or in other countries, football. But you were, from a young age into your adult career, you've performed on high levels in competitions and championship games. As an elite athlete, you often had to have that mindset of, we have to practice, there has to prep, and then there's that game day mindset and being in the right headspace. Can this also be a valuable lesson for businesses to incorporate into their teams?
Yeah, of course. For me personally, preparation is everything. It's not just what you're doing at practice or on game day, it's what you're doing behind closed doors. It's your habits, that how you do anything is how you do everything. So in sport, in soccer, preparation is everything. Athletes don't just show up on game day. We study film, practice scenarios, we condition, we eat well, we sleep. Businesses can take that same mindset by rehearsing big presentations, simulating market challenges, training employees for these high pressure situations where decisions have to be made. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready is the lesson at the end of the day. The lesson is consistent preparation builds confidence, adaptability, and just like an athlete's next play mentality, it helps them bounce back from mistakes. Businesses cultivate resilience like this by focusing not just on the process, but the outcome.
I have a follow-up question. This is a personal question, but could help all of our graduate students. How did you manage between training and studies? Talk a little bit.
I'll let you know when I figure it out. No. No, I speak with our students. Obviously, Dr. Diaz and our students a lot of them are working full time. Some of them have families. We attract, older individuals that are coming back to school after many years apart. So the best thing for me is those time management skills. When I work best is on a schedule, which is very hard with young children, by the way. But if you map out your week, okay, I know I have to work 8 to 5. Well, maybe after the kids go to bed, or I'm waking up early to make sure I'm getting my coursework done. It's just about prioritizing those things that are important to you and making sure that if you operate on a schedule, you're scheduling that time to get your coursework done. And making sure that, time management above all else is the most important, because I don't think that these days people realize, how much time we're spending on our phones, on social media, that momentum that you put into things that aren't necessarily important can be put into your studies or other things that are important to you.
I'm sorry, I wanted to jump in real quick because I think Dr. Washington is definitely alluding to self-awareness. And that's what we see with those really top-notch organizations that succeed not only in sports, but in business as well. I think about Pat Riley, who, don't necessarily care for the heat of the Lakers, but that's okay. But Pat Riley, he's not an X's and O's coach. He is somebody who manages personalities. And so he always had his assistant coaches who really dealt with the X's and O's and calling the plays. His job was to get alignment from his players, and that started with self-awareness. If you're going to go and join sport management program or an exercise science program, know what you need to do in order to get the job done. And sometimes we have to critically reflect and and Dr. Washington alluded to, what are your priorities? What's important to you that you need to take care of so you can get the job done?
No, and that's a valid point, Dr. Harmon. And I think one of the things that, no matter whether we're talking education and we're talking our undergraduate students, you often are working with high schoolers, just being away from home for the first time, to the graduate students that Dr. Morgan and Dr. Diaz see. We've always talked SMART goals, right? SMART, which, let's see if I still remember from my business classes, stands for, oh, look here, I might even remember right now. So making sure that you're setting goals,
You got it,
that they're measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. But you talk a lot about SMART-ter goals. So you've added an E and an R. So first, what does the E and the R stand? And if you want to clarify my quick rundown of SMART, you can go for it. But what are the objectives with SMARTer? Because I've never heard of using SMARTer goals. I mean, I have a feeling it's going to make sense once you explain it.
Well, absolutely. The E and the R are for evaluated. So once you have set your goals and really objectives, that's one of the things that I always get into with folks, because SMART applies to objectives and objectives feed into your goals. But evaluating your objectives in the long run, is it something that you need to modify moving forward, or is it something that, this makes perfect sense? And that's one of the, I will be honest with you, one of the things sometimes we have difficulty with is saying, what, I messed up. I messed up this first time. I need to rethink this in order to make it, workable. And then when we talk about reflective, the R, reflecting, thinking about, it's a little bit like evaluation, but let's revise this. Let's reflect on it. Let's change it moving forward. And let's make sure that this is something that can work for not only yourself, but for others as well. When you have those leaders who are more inclusive in the sports world, I've seen coaches who have a game plan and it's not working out. And then they'll go to their players and say, you know what, this was my game plan. This is what I thought was going to work. And it's not. What do y'all suggest? You're out there playing. You see things differently than I do. You bring that to my attention and then, hey, let's try and see if we can put that into action. But the SMARTer is just really evaluating and then revising those objectives that you set for yourself.
Just to complement on that, I agree 100%, Dr. Harmon. And one more thing, as a leader, as a head coach or like director of any organization, you need to be humble to do exactly like you said. Because sometimes we have a plan and we all have our experience and sometimes successful experience, but now maybe for a specific team or for a specific job is not working. So what do you need to do now to be humble and get maybe opinions from guys that have lower rank, or less experience, and then give it a try. So it sometimes end up being positive outcomes.
I agree.
So Dr. Washington, to kind of piggyback off of what they been talking about, a lot of times to figure this out, right? So to be able to reflect, you got to look at the data. Whether we're talking sports performance or we're talking, numbers on a financial report for a business, we need to go back to the data and breaking it down. How does, applying in businesses the performance analytics or even data-driven decision making, much like sports teams, give them that competitive edge?
Yeah, I think it's interesting in the past, 10 years or so, how much sport has been transformed by analytics. We actually were discussing this in Keiser Live the other night, how the NFL now has, or NFL teams now have a designated person on their team that is specifically looking at the data from other teams, or MLB batting coaches that now have software that breaks down every single aspect of the swing, so much so that they can almost perfect it, including things like AI, and it's all just elevating every single year. But tracking player efficiency, monitor training loads, fan engagement, sport managers are doing all these things now. And businesses can adopt the same approach by maybe gathering data on employee performance or customer behavior, operational efficiency. But the lesson there from sports is balance, because numbers can guide your decisions. They can, make you tell your employees, hey, I need you to do better in these areas, but they never are going to replace human judgment and human emotion. So just as coaches blend analytics with intuition, businesses should use data to inform choices while staying adaptable to the human side of business. It never needs to be forgotten that at the end of the day, AI, none of this stuff can replace that human touch.
Yes, and to complement that, I agree 100%, Dr. Washington. I had experience. I work with this young baseball player that his family wanted him to become a pro. And we work on all the strength and conditioning components for the metrics, all those data analytics for exit velocity, sprinting time. We got all that covered. But now what the most important? The psychological side. Does the kid really wants to do that? Understand? So
right.
Creating that balance is very important, because if you know, okay, everybody's thinking like, okay, those are the metrics, this, yes, but at the end of the day, how are you going to perform under pressure? How are you going to do that in the time that really is important for you? So it could be you in the leader position or you in the field. So creating that balance definitely important. So that's why don't be afraid, especially like people like us that work with education, people that listen, that eventually want to look at a career. Don't think, oh, AI is going to replace. No, because the human touch, those little details, will be very, very difficult for any machine to kind of like eliminate our jobs, saying this way.
No, and I like the examples that you guys brought up, because I was thinking of a couple other systems that have you see like let me clarify where I'm going. You see like on football Sunday, although I guess football's no longer just Sundays anymore, right? But you see them on the sidelines with the tablets, and they're showing to the players, and there's this back and forth conversation. But I think the best examples that I've seen of this is, if you watched Hard Knocks, the first edition of Hard Knocks for the year. Our household's a big Buffalo Bills fan, so we of course didn't miss it. But they showed Dr. Washington how Josh Allen learned how to be a better quarterback, and they had all these cameras surrounding him. They had a sports manager with a background in kinesiology, and they would look at it. They would look at the data. They would use the AI tools, and they would give him feedback, that human touch, like, this is what it's saying, but this is what it means. And Dr. Harmon, I know you guys do the same thing with golf. You have the golf simulation to help correct them. So the AI does help, like, is what I'm saying. I don't know if either one of you want to add on to that, when we're looking at these for improvement.
Well, absolutely.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Justin.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, you can always use information, but at the end of the day, a decision needs to be made. And I love the fact that Dr. Washington mentioned that word intuition. And that's something that almost no machine can replicate. Years ago, if you talk about when the Patriots were in the Super Bowl against the Falcons, right? 99% chance that the Falcons are going to win this game. So if you just went by the numbers, the Patriots would just give up and say, all right, the machine says we're going to lose, right? 99.9. But you had players, you had coaches who had been in that position before. They knew it's, hey, it's just one play at a time. You do what you need to do. I'm going to do what I need to do. We're going to grind this thing out. We're going to take steps so we can get back in this game, right? So we do need to use information to inform our decisions, but at the same time, you got to be able to trust sometimes that human instinct is going to bring something to the table that no machine is going to be able to replicate. And since you mentioned Josh Allen, I remember a playoff game he had against the Houston Texans, my team, a few years ago, and I give him all the credit in the world. He's trying to make a play. Now, the data was said there is no way that you should try to lateral to your teammate, especially if the teammate's not looking at you. That's not going to be a good decision. But Josh Allen wanted to make a play. He wanted to help his team win. And I will tell you, he probably used that information moving forward. And he's like, okay, I'm not going to do that again. But I've also seen Josh Allen, make really quick passes that no other quarterback would do. And he's like, in this moment, I think this is going to be successful. And that comes from, years of learned knowledge and experience, right? And machine can't replicate that for Josh Allen. So that's the last time I'm going to give Josh Allen any props or any respect. So you just take that with what you can.
So I want to kind of shift a little bit, if you guys don't mind. I know what we've talked about so far is taking concepts that, are very often talked about in the world of sports management and exercise science, and how it can apply to real world situations like this everyday businesses. But can we talk a little bit about your programs, the academic programs here at Keiser? Because at the end of the day, these teams that we're watching on TV, whether we're looking at a UFC cage fight and all their trainers, it goes back to their managers, or we're looking at baseball teams, soccer teams, football teams. It's a business. And
Absolutely.
here at Keiser University, we have both an undergraduate and really excited for the developments coming out of the graduate school. We do have sports management opportunities to really engage the students who are dedicated to athletics, but also have an interest in business. So can we talk about the program offerings, Dr. Diaz? How does these programs help prepare students, for that next step, connecting
Yes.
that athleticism to education?
Very good. I'll talk a little bit, and Dr. Harmon, even more experienced than me in this point. But the whole idea of our program, get this expertise and pass to the students, because I had several business, including gyms, and those gyms, some they were successful, some don't. Why? Because I didn't have classes like this to prepare. So I need to learn the old school way, like by mistake. And this all comes to education. So you have people like Dr. Harmon with a lot of experience. You follow his ideas, there's a better chance than me back on the days just trying to open in my own gym and then learn with my mistakes. So our program goes in that direction. So try to close that gap. And there's a lot of jobs available in this area. Dr. Morgan pulled a little list for us, but she can mention later. So there's a lot of job opportunities. Why? Because like we said earlier, it's getting more professional. Even like small organizations, they're getting professionalized. And you see, even like public high schools now, they're having like a strength and conditioning, or they have a specific coach for every position. They have an athletic director, they have an athletic trainer, understand? So they're working like a small little, professional team. So that's the way that we're trying to help here in this program. And Dr. Harmon can give you more ideas and explain more.
Well, sure. My background before I got into education was working in minor league basketball. Fun fact, all of the teams I worked for no longer exist. That's the bad news. The good news is, many of those organizations, I was like, you cannot continue operating in this fashion because we will go out of business. Thankfully, only one of them fired me for bringing that to their attention. But that being said, at the end of the day, I try to reinforce, sports is business. You're operating this team, and many times we had team owners who are like, oh, we're losing, and that's why the fans aren't coming. And I'm like, no, the fans are coming because they're not perceiving value that they are getting from, their tickets, right? Unfortunately, a team I worked with, we gave away a whole bunch of tickets, which was good to get people in the doors. But at the same time, nobody in the community didn't really value the tickets because they were like, oh, if I wait long enough, they'll just give us free tickets, right? So why would I ever pay? And you have to understand the value, whatever business that you operate, what does it bring to the table? If you value it, then other people should value it as well. We just had an opportunity to take several students, from grad students to undergrad students, sports management, psych, biomed. We all went down to watch the Miami Marlins game versus the Mets that Tony Hilliard had set up for us. And it was a great experience. We had four of the executives from the Marlins just talk about their experience. And that's the kind of thing that I believe Keiser brings to the table that not every sport management program can do. We have connections throughout the state of Florida. We have connections internationally as well. So, we have opportunities for students to meet with these execs and who can tell them. I mean, the great thing about these execs, they were very honest. They talked about the mistakes they had made in the past, the mistakes they don't want students to make. They all said, hey, if you contact me and tell them that you were at this symposium, I'm going to respond to you, and I'm going to try to maybe connect you with somebody who's maybe in an area that maybe aligns with what the student wants to do. Once again, I think that's something unique that we brought to the table. But I love the fact that those execs actually just talked about their experience, and our students really, I think, connected with them, and it resonated. And I'll be honest with you, we had some students that were like, I'm just here to skip class. I'm here. This is a school sanctioned event. So I'm coming here and I'm going to go to a baseball game. And they learned something. So we had several students who came to us afterwards and were like, hey, I appreciate this. I'm in psychology, but I definitely see how I can use this moving forward in my professional path and in my education. So I think that's something that we bring to the table that not every school can offer.
Dr. Diaz, so let's connect these concepts that we've been talking about, the business, the sports side. We've talked about the athletes. We've talked about, analytics and data. If someone's thinking about opening up a sports facility, they can't go pro, but they still love all aspects of, and I'm going to pick on the UFC only because I've known you've worked in that industry. So we're picking on the UFC today. I'm going to move away from football for a minute here. They want to open up a sports facility. What's the first steps?
So that's a very good question. And this question can help in many avenues, not only, let's say, in the gym facility, for any other business, but there's 4 parts, very important. The first one's called pre-design phase. There's a design phase, construction phase, and pre-operation phase. The pre-design phase is one that you need to allocate the most amount of time and effort. Why? Because the first thing you got to do a needs analysis. You need to really understand what do you bring, what is that you're trying to do or trying to achieve that's different, that's a necessity. Because one thing, and I remember when I opened one gym I had 3 gyms in South Florida, but the first one, I just moved from Brazil. I had no expertise. So I got this realtor from Miami, and then he put me in Boca Raton, but back in 2008, when was the economy crash. So what happened there? Everything bankrupt. And we got lonely in the small, and then a bunch of older people, if you go East Boca. So understand, so knowing, understanding, doing the research, it's very important. And then years down the road, let's say past 5 years when I opened the other gym, I spent 6 months just the needs analysis. And the needs analysis is important to do what's a feasibility study. So now you look, okay, what can I offer? What is my competitors are doing? What is all the possibilities around? And then one thing that hurts people the most, especially now the way the economy is going, is the price of the rent. So you got to be very smart when you do your business. Maybe you start small and grow. I see this because remember, I have my background in Brazil, was born there, living in Russia, studying Russia, traveling 16 different countries. In America, everything is big. Okay, one thing is good, yes, but there's also a greater chance for you to fail if you don't plan correctly, and the loss could be great. So starting small and growing maybe something that you could do better. So needs analysis, number 1, feasibility study. So now from there, where do you go? You go to your design phase. You create a community. Should be somebody, not only like, let's say, an investor. There's a bunch of people they're trying to do on their own. It's a little hard because now you're going to end up being maybe too small. Okay. So if you have an investor, yes, but you need to have somebody that's specific in that field. You cannot just, oh yeah, I want to open a martial arts gym, but I don't know anything about that. So if you don't have that expertise, you're going to suffer, even if you have a lot of money. And I have examples, a colleague that spent more than $1 million and failed. Why? Because he didn't want to listen to the experts in the field. So it's not just having the money, but having the right people to do that. Another part important is have a construction phase. So now you create a master plans, you have arranging equipment. This is stuff that I learned the hard way because in Brazil also the laws are a little different. And this other gym that we had in North Miami Beach, the city was very hard on us with the license and the permits, and they shut down us for like 6 months just for little stuff. And then there's a lot of loss in rent and money. So all of this, if you do ahead, will save you those headaches. That's why we're here to try to create this awareness and then tell you, okay, prepare before you go, so to avoid problems in the future. When you go For the construction phase, make sure you have people qualified, license, permits, everything. In the pre-operation phase now, you definitely want to work with qualified people, because sometimes you can have, oh yeah, this guy I can get, let's say, 10% cheaper to work in my staff, but that 10% could represent you like breaking even or not, you know. So those are the four phases that could help any business: pre-design phase, design phase, construction phase, and pre-operation phase.
So one of the, oh, sorry, Dr. Harmon, go ahead.
I'm just going to say, we see the same thing in academics, right? And one of the things that Dr. Diaz referred to is research, right? You got to do your research from the beginning. Otherwise, you could set yourself up for failure. And same thing when we talk about in academics. We tell our students, go do the research. There is a chance that somebody has already laid the groundwork, and you can find that and you can build upon that. And if they haven't, there's an opportunity for you there to kind of create your own path. But I just wanted to say research.
Yeah.
You mentioned, Dr. Diaz, the needs analysis.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to who you're trying to serve, right? You know, we talked about a sports facility. You mentioned yourself that you opened up a few gyms. I mean, obviously, you know, if you're looking at a sports facility, you're trying to get recognition. So you're trying to attract that elite athlete that you want in your gym, because when Dana White announces who they are in the next big, you know, matchup, you want to hear fighting out of, you know, Dr. Diaz's gym, right? You want that recognition. But that's not the only client. And you have to establish yourself, you know, fully be functioning and open to even garner that elite athlete. But what about the rest of the general community? Where does the balance come in, or how do you balance, you know, the elite athletes versus the community?
Yes, perfect. And I saw, and then I had chance to be involved in some of those projects. People sometimes they have great ideas, great personnel, but they're too specific. So now you have the people that want to do this, want to become a pro, but sometimes you suffer a lot. So when you open a little bit broader, you have more chance. So one example is create what's a design a multi-use facility. So this way you can have pro athletes coming because they help advertise, they help to get people in, but now you have a normal population. So one that I can mention is one of our partners here in the Orlando area. It's a place for our internship for students. It's called Lake Nona Performance Club. So they got into Lake Nona area in Orlando. If you've been around, it's a very nice area. There are a bunch of hospitals and buildings, new facility development there. So they create this nice facility, multi-purpose. They put, even they have a small golf clinic there to teach you with the technology, Dr. Harmon. They have CrossFit, they have swimming pool, they have kids, they have athletic training, they have physical therapy. So now in one area, they made this broad development, and they've affiliated with the Orlando Soccer City. So now some of those players, they come and do their strength and conditioning there in different zones. So you can close, you know, let's say a gap, let's say 2 to 4, I believe is when they come, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So it's not too much traffic anyways, because people either work. So now when you create like a multi-purpose facility, you have more chance to be successful. Because there's one thing, like Dr. Washington, soccer player. So I could do my facility all focus on soccer. Yes, but now the reality for you to be successful, let's say in Lake Nona, that's expensive area, how many soccer players really want to come to your gym? Understand? So now when you have like, okay, if you're a soccer player, you want to perform, here's your place. But if you're just a person that just want to get in shape, that's your place also. Or if you want to be involved with those professional athletes or be around, that's your place too. So see, so thinking about the community, it's good. And then trying to find places or locations that don't offer the same thing they're trying to do. Understand? So it would be not smart if I try to do the same setup at Lake Nona right now, because, you know, it will be very hard to compete. So that's part of the needs analysis, the feasibility study. So you not only have a great idea with good people and investment in personnel, but also in the area that's in need for that.
You've got to do your research, like Dr. Harmon said.
I do want to point out, I have a former student who is, she trains triathletes, and she uses that Lake Nona facility because it have a lot of different resources that triathletes would need. So that's crazy kismet. That's really awesome.
And they have basketball courts too, you know, so the facility is gigantic.
That's cool. So obviously for them to be successful, they use technology. And I know we kind of touched on technology a little bit before when we were talking about performance analysis and data analytics. But how can you integrate the technology into their systems?
Yes. So I can talk about that. So the technology, we need to see what is available, what is easy to use. Okay. So I've been using, for example, trackers, GPS trackers, heart rate monitors. So this is simple stuff that can give you feedback, especially let's say the amount of calories that you burn, to get people more motivated. So that's one thing that in our field we can utilize. And then one example, I did this webinar with this professor from New York area not long ago, and he used the same velocity-based technology that I use with sensors. So he did a nice thing. What he did, he worked primarily with baseball players, but in his gym, he specialized in analyze power generation or velocity. So he had, let's say, you have the Olympic racks where you do your Olympic lifts and squats and deadlifts, whatever. For every hack that he has in his gym, and then they have 15 racks, he implemented the velocity-based training with a little tablet in every single rack. So now the student come in and create a profile. So let's say Dr. Washington, and just put here Dr. Washington, and then we'll put her profile. Okay, so now she's going to do, let's say, a power clean. We say, hey, last time you used 90 pounds and you generate, let's say, 1 meter per second in the speed. So now create a little competition and motivation for Washington to come, because, okay, especially like we are in the sports area, we always try to get better. But if one thing, I just go in the gym, I move the bar, who knows if I move faster or slower, right? I don't know. But now if I see them numbers, like, wait a minute, last time I moved this bar at 0.8 meters per second. Today I want to be 0.81, 0.9 meters per second. So giving that feedback. So when you start utilizing this, definitely can bring benefits, not only for performance, but also for motivation purpose. So people get more engaged, people get more excited to see the results. And then for us and the coach, or even as a sports manager or director, you can say, hey, look, we're going to create a profile. We're going to do all those assessments when you start here. And then every 3 months, we're going to reassess. So people will say, okay, I'm not a pro yet, but I'm 10% better than when I started here. You see? So that's kind of like where the technology can really benefit. And we teach in our program that too.
So let's talk actually about the programs. So if somebody's interested in sports management, the other side of the sports, like what's behind the athletes or that we see on TV, they first meet Dr. Harmon, because we're talking about our undergraduate programs. Dr. Harmon, what offerings do we have at an undergraduate level for those interested in pursuing this industry?
Well, we have a lot of different specific programs. The way that we are built, we have room in our program for 3 lower division electives and 5 upper division electives. So we actually allow students to kind of construct specializations. We have, if a student wanted to, esports offerings, sports psychology, coaching, sport broadcasting. We have students who can get into different areas. They're allowed to almost create their own specialization within the sport management program. Usually they work with an academic advisor. They tell them what they're interested in. The advisor will reach out to me. I make them aware of the different course offerings we have, and we help the student construct, their education. And we found that, we have a generation of students who are coming to university who want to be more involved in the construction of their education. Previously, it was kind of like, okay, well, you have to just take these classes, and, full stop. Students are like, no, I want to build my education. There's things that I want to learn about. And I believe that at the undergraduate level here in our sport management program, we do have that ability to help students construct, their education. But we don't restrict them. The student comes to me and says, Professor Harmon, I want to study this. Immediately, what I will do is kind of look at the Keiser catalog, see how we can build it within the system. And the other great thing about Keiser is we're a private university. We're a little bit more agile than the state schools. So if we needed to build a new course, to accommodate student interest, we can do so relatively quickly, which is always a good thing. Yeah, that's some of the stuff that we offer. And then hopefully we send them on over to our master's program and help them find the different ways and I did mention the student who was she coached triathletes, so she did sport management undergrad, and then she joined the exercise science program to do her master's. So it was actually pretty good kismet to send them on over. But I'll let Dr. Washington talk about what happens when they get to the master's.
I was just going to add to the undergraduate level, Dr. Hilliard offers a great internship program. He's very well connected in the South Florida area, and we have students at the undergraduate level who are, with the Marlins, with the Hurricanes, with all these different sports teams. So you're not only getting the education, you're getting that hands-on experience. And when it comes to the sport management field, that's essential for when you go to apply for your career. We want you to have that experience. At the graduate level, I would say we're still, in the works, so we're still figuring a lot of that out, but we have big plans. Ideally, our master's program is including internships as well, hopefully more on the paid side because now you're coming with more experience. But I just wanted to throw some statistics out there. So in the industry, this sport management industry is growing rapidly. Currently, there's about 735,000 professionals that are employed in the sport management discipline. Last year, there was almost 18,000 degrees awarded in the sport management area, and the career field is showing a 7% growth every single year since 2015. I think in the entry-level role, when you're graduating with a master's in sport management, it's anywhere from $60,000 to $115,000 a year, depending on what area you're in. So obviously that's a big appeal for a lot of people. And just our program in general, now that we're offering it fully online, I know that it's way more accessible to people who are maybe a little bit older, have families, have changing career fields. The idea of being online is it's more accessible to all different types of populations. But we are looking forward to getting some more students enrolled. So hopefully this podcast helps generate some buzz about it, because we have big intentions for this online program.
Yes, and just to compliment, so one thing that we do here, Keiser, for any programs, our philosophy, students first. So we really go and take the time to see what's the best for the student to help them achieve their dream job, their goal.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a student like, okay, I want to work for Miami Heat. And then we're like, okay, so what are the possibilities? What are the avenues that you need to take to get there? So that's what we're trying to do here. And we have like professionals. We have students there in great leadership positions already. Some they started here and got those jobs. Some they got those jobs and came to us to get better. So either or, that doesn't matter. If you already have a decent job, good job, see, there's a lot of opportunities there, and there's ways to grow, and we are here to assist you in that process.
This has been a fantastic conversation. And there's something that we do with Dr. Diaz before we let you guys go, and that's his off the wall or hot off the wall questions. But I want to against the wall with Dr. Diaz. But before he asks his questions, I want to ask you guys against the wall. I have my own question for you today, Dr. Diaz, and for Dr. Harmon and Dr. Washington. So let's take a look at what we've been talking about. We've been talking about the elite athletes. We've been talking about the coaching, the training, setting the smarter goals, how these athletic facilities, there's a front and there's a back. We think of the athletes before we think about the GM. Well, although, come draft day, I think we're all thinking about what the heck is that GM doing. But let's put it to motion. So I want to know your predictions, taking all of that in consideration, the analytics, the data, the players, the back office people, who y'all think is going to the Super Bowl and going to be this year's winner? And we're going to start with Dr. Washington because she is the newest family member.
Oh man, well, I'm born and raised in Tampa Bay, Florida. I'm a diehard Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. I know that we don't have Brady anymore, but I'm riding till the
You got
death.
Baker. I'm a huge Baker fan.
I am too. I'm riding till the wheels fall off. My Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be the 2026 Super Bowl champions.
All right, Dr. Harmon. She has Tampa.
Well,
who do you have?
Well, they beat us once already this year, but the revenge might happen in the Super Bowl when the Texans actually beat the Bucks in the Super Bowl. So yeah,
I love Houston too.
So yeah, the greatest comeback story in NFL history started out 0-3, but riding all the way to the Super Bowl, I'm picking the Texans.
All right, Dr. Diaz, who do you have?
Yeah, for me, remember, I'm not like
American
football.
Well, we're putting you on the spot anyway.
It's difficult to me, but I go with Dr. Washington because we're close. We cheer for Florida. We're around here. So I go with her on this one.
Buffalo going all the way this year.
That could be a realistic pick.
When you look at the way that they're implementing the technology, how their offices run, all the way down to the quarterback, Josh Allen.
Love Josh Allen.
Bills. I think it's the Bills this year, but Dr. Diaz, let me turn against the wall over to you. What do we got?
All right, guys. So now I have my questions against the wall. I'm gonna start with Heather this time. So Heather, what is your favorite sport?
I love watching American football, but I grew up playing softball. So I've always been a big fan of softball and baseball when it comes to actually like playing of the sport. But watching it, I never miss a Sunday.
Wow, good. Dr. Washington.
You guys are going to be really surprised that I'm not going to say soccer.
Yeah, I'm surprised already.
Mine and soccer's relationship is like brother, sister, like you love them, you hate them, Obviously, soccer is forever my favorite sport, but I'm actually a huge basketball fan. My husband works in college basketball. I love college basketball. I love NBA. So I'd have to say soccer and basketball.
Okay. That's a surprise. Dr. Harmon. Dr. Harmon.
Yeah, just American football from the jump. I'm from rural Texas, so yeah, just football all the way. But I have expanded when I moved overseas and lived overseas for 3 years. Basketball really took off, and then appreciation of soccer. I did go to school with Johan Cruyff's kids, and I had no idea who Johan Cruyff.
That's a name drop. Oh my gosh.
Hey, absolutely. I had no idea who he was, right? And later on, when I watched film of him play, I'm like, oh my gosh, this dude just redefined the game. So I really learned to appreciate it.
You can't just name drop Cruyff so casually. There's literally, my favorite move is named after him. Jeez.
That's nice. I love many sports, especially like Brazilian favorite sports, but as we grow older, the one that I do the most now is resistance training, weightlifting, and also I play soccer. Dr. Washington, I don't know if you know this, but my kids, they play soccer.
I know.
And then every week, every Friday, we go to this youth called Ronaldo Academy here in Orlando. So we play with some friends for an hour and a half. That's I do for my cardio, so that's every Friday. Yes, and I love it. All right, question 2. Start with Dr. Harmon this time.
Okay.
What do you prefer? Watch a game or go to a music concert?
Oh, watch a game, easy. Yeah.
Watch a
game. I listen to music in the car. That's about it. I don't go to music concerts. So yeah, definitely go and watch a game. That's always going to be my favorite.
All right. Heather?
I'm gonna have to go with a concert.
Concert.
Okay, so now concert.
So now give me a follow-up. What's your favorite band?
Oh.
Only one.
What era are we talking though? You gotta get
music. What's your favorite?
Currently, my favorite performers to go and see, because I've seen them a couple of times, Carry On. Underwood puts on a fantastic show. Usher puts on a fantastic show. and so does Bruno Mars. So they put on some great shows. So those would be, I think, my top three. Like, they're true entertainers.
All right, Dr. Washington.
Oh, that's too tough. Both. I love music and I love going to sports events. There's nothing like a good college basketball game though. So I'm gonna have to go with going to a game.
Okay. I'm gonna surprise you because even my passion for sports now, because of my kids in high school. So I would say like a music concert. And not long ago, I went to I believe it was last year, had Hot Chili Peppers. You know, yeah. And then I saw had Hot Chili Peppers back 20 years ago in Rock in Rio 2 in Brazil, more than 1 million people. Imagine I went to the show, had 1 million people. Was back on when we didn't have cell phones. We need to have a hands tied, because if you lose, you never see. You can imagine 1 million people, the same thing. This is like gigantic place that they rented there in Rio de Janeiro. Yes. So Hot Chili Peppers is one of my bands here. All right. Two more. What's your favorite food, Dr. Harmon?
Oh, barbecue ribs from Texas.
Oh,
Yeah, absolutely.
So I go with you on this one. I love barbecue. We call picanha. If you ever go to a Brazilian steakhouse, ask for picanha. Okay, it's amazing. They cut with you. Yeah, it's amazing. But I have a cousin in Texas. He did his famous how you call the rib, right? But they put something in the oven like 12 hours. They leave in this brisket. Yes.
Brisket, yeah.
So 12 or 14 hours on this machine, and then it's just like delicious.
You've never sounded more un-American than you just did.
All right. Heather?
So I'm originally from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a very heavy Polish influence. So one of my favorite foods I've had both Russian and Polish version, and it is pierogies. So those are probably my favorite.
Okay. All right, and last one, guys. Give me like motivation.
What about Dr. Washington?
It's okay.
Washington.
I'm not important. It's okay. You guys are gonna laugh at me. I'm such a child, but macaroni and cheese is my favorite food. I'm not even gonna lie to you. We even served it at my wedding. That's how much.
There we go. There we go. I love it.
Dr. Harmon, we're talking about barbecue. She come with macaroni and cheese.
I support you, Dr. Washington.
It's okay. But soccer players usually they eat pasta a lot.
Carbs. So. I love it. I never met a carb I didn't love.
Yeah. All right, last one. So I'll start with Washington this time. Give me a motivational quote or anything to finish here for our current students or future students that are going to watch our podcast.
Actually, you said it earlier. One of my favorite ones is stay ready so you don't got to get ready. Always be prepared, expect the unexpected.
Great. Okay, Heather.
So mine does not come from an athlete, so I hope you guys accept it. But there's a YouTuber I love watching, and he does a lot of projects for the community and bettering the community. And his phrase that he always said is better, not perfect. And I love that phrase because the pursuit of perfection can be your downfall. So whether we're talking academic, professionally, but always aiming to do better, to leave the community or leave the organization better than when you found it, that should be your goal. So better, not perfect.
Very good. Thank you. Dr. Harmon?
Well, coincide with this podcast, I think every business or every person can build a championship mindset with the right playbook. So doing the research, knowing what you want to achieve, I think that helps build success. But I do like, don't talk about it, be about it. So it's great to have an idea. How are you going to put that idea into action? That's what I talk about with my students all the time.
Amazing. And the one, I have many phrases, but one that really touched me throughout those last couple of years. I think I saw on the LinkedIn, and I've been doing this, but now when I saw this phrase actually touched me. It's go to work or do anything that you're doing as it's your last day. So imagine this is your last day at work. So what do you want to do? You want to create a good impression. You want to give your best. You don't want to leave and people, yeah, I'm happy that he left. I want him to miss me. They want him to miss you. So that's my mentality, and then that's what I've been bringing here to Keiser. So every day I think this. Imagine this is my last day of work. So I want to do everything. So I respond to my emails, I text message, I try, to do my best. So if you keep that mentality, guaranteed that at least people will appreciate your work, and you most likely will be successful in this graduate school career or any business. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining us today. I appreciate you guys taking the time and having some fun with us here at the end. So Dr. Diaz, Dr. Harmon, Dr. Washington, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your schedule for us.
Oh, no, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And if you guys have loved this conversation, be sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow, and catch us on the next one.
Thank you for journeying with us today on KeiserVoices, the story of success. As we close this chapter, remember every story has its next page.